First, I want to start by saying that the material in this video comes from a tutorial that was created by Mark Overmars, the creator of the GameMaker program itself. This tutorial can be found on the Yo-Yo Games website. Even though GameMaker is very easy to use, getting the hang of it might be a little bit difficult at first. This tutorial is meant for those who have had some difficulty getting started with GameMaker. It will lead you step by step through the process of making your first game. Realize that this is the most difficult part. To make your first game, you have to understand a number of the basic aspects of GameMaker. So please listen to this tutorial carefully and try to understand all the steps. Once you're finished with your first game, the second one is going to be a lot easier. Before we start our game, since this is our first one, we'd like to change GameMaker's interface into simple mode. So the way you do that is uncheck this if it's already checked. Advanced mode adds a lot of other stuff that's just going to be confusing for the novice game programmer. So make sure that's unchecked and then we'll go from there. Now the game we're going to be creating is called Catch the Clown. Catch the Clown is an action game. In this game, a clown moves around a playing field, and the goal is for the player is to catch the clown by clicking on the clown with the mouse. As the player progresses through the game, the clown starts moving faster and it becomes more difficult to catch him. For each catch, the score is raised, and the goal is to get the highest score possible. Expected playing time is just a few minutes. Now the first thing you typically do when you create a game is you create the small pictures that are going to be used to display the objects in your game. The name of these are called sprites, and what we want to do is create two sprites, one for the clown and then one for the wall that goes around the play area. So let's right click on the sprites folder and say create sprite. Here we want to give it a meaningful name, so usually what I do, and this matches the book pretty well, you say SPR and then an underscore and say this is going to be our clown sprite. So you say it like that. Now we have to load that image from the resources folder that's provided by your teacher. Here I have it already set up, and you want to also say remove background when you choose that. So now we have a small picture of the clown, and it's going to represent our clown object. This game will also need a wall sprite, so we're going to do that as well. And again, we'll use the same naming convention, meaning we'll start with SPR and then we'll call it wall. And again, we click on load sprite. Here's our sprite for the wall. This time we don't remove the background. Usually with walls you don't do that. And then next up we're going to create the sounds we need for our game. The first one is the bouncing sound, so we're going to give it a meaningful name. We're going to load that sound from our resources. And that'll be good. And then we're going to create another sound. This one is about was for the click event. So we say SND. We'll call it click. We'll load the click sound. Okay. It looks good. Having created the sprites and sounds does not mean that anything is happening. Sprites are only the images for game objects, and we have not yet defined any game objects. Similarly, sounds will only play if we tell them to be played. So we need to create our two game objects next. Now before we do this, we will have to understand the basic way in which GameMaker operates. As we have indicated before, in a game we have a number of different game objects. During the running of the game, one or more instances of these game objects will present on the screen, or more general, in the game world. Note that there can be multiple instances of the same game object. So, for example, in the Catch the Clown game, there will be a large number of instances of wall objects which surround the playing field. There will be just one instance of the clown object. Okay, now is the time to create the new objects then. I'm going to right click on the objects menu and say create object. And we're going to give this a meaningful name. We say obj for object underscore, and this is going to be the wall object. Now, once you've created the object, you need to specify which sprite to use to represent that object in the game. Here's the sprite we're using for the wall, and we're going to check this box here as well, and that will make the wall solid. The other object we need to make is the clown object. Let's try that. And again, use the sprite that we created. But for the clown, we're going to leave the solid box unchecked. Next thing we need to do probably is save the game. We haven't done that yet. So I'll click on this Save button, and the game is now saved. Should bring up a window though asking, here it is. Please give your games meaningful names. We can just call it Catch the Clown. So that later on when we're looking at it we have a name kind of attached to. And I'll save that. Next thing I like to do is to create a room to try out some of these objects. So I say create room, and you can give your room a meaningful name. Let's just call it room 1. And then here's our room, and what you'll see is a bunch of squares, and what we're going to do is use this grid to position some of our objects. So you select which object you want to add to the room. That's here. In this case we want to do the clown. And then we'll also add in some wall objects. Typically when I do this, I just left click, but if you want to go faster you can hold down the shift key and it will allow you to draw the walls just by clicking and dragging. Don't be too concerned about boxes outside of the grid, at least right now. We can go back and fix those later. I'm changing my view here in the window down there like that. And then if you hold down shift and right click, it will allow you to clean up any stray walls. One thing that I like to do when I'm building games is to give the game a try as I'm building it. So I'm going to just press the play button that's up here, and what will happen is GameMaker will start the game running. Move it here so we can see it. Right now our game doesn't really do a lot. We have our wall, we have our clown, but there isn't a lot of things other than that going on. But the game at least can run. Now we'll go back to our clown object. So here, we'll open that up. And you'll note we have two different parts of the screen that comes up for the object. One is called the event window or panel, and then there's an actions panel. Now everything in GameMaker typically starts with an event, and if you click on one of these buttons down here, add event, you're able to choose all the different events that can happen to an object while the game is being played. Now what we'd like to do with the clown object is we'd like to select a create event. So the event is listed here, and then the user interface is asking us, okay, when the clown is first created, what do we want it to do? In this case we want to use this move fixed action, so we click on it and drag it over to our actions. And then what we'd like to do is say we're going to give it a speed of 4, and we're going to allow the computer to choose one of these directions to start the clown moving at the start of the game. And so what this means is that any of those directions other than stop are directions I want you to use to create the clown's movement. So again, I'm going to start the game again, and let me run it. Now you note that the clown is moving, but clown is moving outside the room, so we're going to have to fix that problem next. The next thing we need to do is to create an event for when the clown collides with the wall. So we're going to do that here. Just press the Add Event button, choose Collision, and then select what object the clown is going to collide with. In this case, it's the wall. And here in the Actions part, we want to say what should happen when the clown collides with the wall. In this case, we want to choose this one, Bounce. We'll drag that over into the Action panel. And again, you can just go with the defaults here. Now when we run the game, you should note that the clown, when it hits the wall, it bounces back in the other direction. Now, if I were to run this again, most likely we get a different direction the next time we run it, because remember, GameMaker is choosing the directions randomly. One thing I forgot to mention is we need to play a sound when the collision event actually occurs. So we go to this second tab called Main 1. We'll drag on this Play Sound action. We'll choose our bounce sound, and we'll leave loop set to false. So now when we play the game, we'll give it a try. You can hear the effects of the collision event as we're playing our game. Finally, we need to define what to do when the user clicks with the left mouse on the clown. We're going to add 4 actions here. First, we will add 10 points to the score. This is easy for GameMaker because it automatically keeps and displays the score. Next, we will play the click sound. After this, we will jump the clown to a random position. We will set a new random direction of motion with a slightly increased speed. The last 2 actions are added to gradually increase the difficulty of the game. Alright, so we'll add the mouse event. Basically, just click on the Add Event button, go to the mouse selection, and don't use left button, but actually left pressed is the one we want. What that means is when the user presses the left mouse button, when the user is over the clown, we want a certain set of actions to occur. First of all, we want to increase the score, so we go to the Main tab and grab actually the Score tab here. It looks similar. And what we want to do is set the score. We're going to drag that on to the Actions panel. We want to increase the score by, I think, 10 each time they successfully click on the clown. So we say 10, but we also want to say relative. What that means is instead of overriding the score with 10, we want to add to the score. We'll do that first. Next, we'd like to play the click sound. So we'll go to where our sound is. I think that's on Main 1. Here's our sound. We choose the click sound we created. And again, still have the loop setting set to false for this one. Then what we want to do is jump to a random position. And so I think it's this one here, jump to random. We'll add that action. And we'll set the, I think we'll just leave it like that. I think that'll be fine. And then finally, we want to change the speed a little bit. So we're going to say move fixed again, and in this case we want to select all the same directions we had before as possibilities, and we're going to add a little bit to the speed. So we're going to say 0.5, and we're going to say relative, so it adds a little bit to the speed. So as the longer they play the game, the harder it is to click on the clown because the clown is moving faster. Okay, we'll give this a try. There we go. Let's see if we can add to the score. So now we have a few last minute things to get into the game just to complete it. First one is we want to create the background music. So I'm going to create the sound here. I'll just say snd_music, and we'll load the file that has our music in it. Say open. So we created the music resource. Now we have to tell GameMaker when to play the sound. I'm thinking we want to play the sound when the object is first created, or the clown is first created. So we're going to go to the clown then, go to the create event, and we're going to add in to play that sound. It's right here. This time we choose our background music, but we want the loop to be true. Since this is our background music and we don't know how long they're going to be playing the game, what we want to happen is when it gets to the end of the music, it starts over back at the beginning. Another thing we need to do is add a background to the room. To add a background, you right click on create background, and then load the background from the resources right here, and say open. And then next we have to assign this background to the room itself. So we go to our room settings, and now we choose the backgrounds tab, and we're going to choose our background we just created, and it's going to tile that background on the back of the room. Now let's give this a try and see what it looks like. Okay, so we have our music now in our background. Looks like everything is working. Congratulations for completing your first computer game. Nice work.